Okay, welcome everyone. I'll call this meeting to order. This meeting is being live streamed and recorded and will be available on the Township's YouTube page. Can I get a mover for the agenda as written? Councillor Milligan, Councillor Fenwick, all in favor? That's carried, thank you. Any declaration of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof? None. No one has registered for open forum. We have no presentations, no deputations. The first item for consideration is a recommendation report for plan of vacant land condominium and zoning bylaw amendment for Beaver Trace Lane. The recommended motions are that council receive the report entitled Recommendation Report for Plan of Vacant Land Condominium and Zoning Bylaw Amendment for Beaver Trace Lane, and that council approve the plan subject to the conditions of draft approval included as attachments 1 and 2, that a bylaw to amend our zoning bylaw 2014-744 to rezone the subject lands filed D06-2023 from residential limited services, RLS, zone to site-specific RLS zones and open space OS zone, and that be enacted and passed, and the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign and seal, and that the clerk forward a notice to those parties and agencies that requested to be notified of council's decision. Can I get a mover to put that on the floor, please? Yeah, sure. Yeah, okay. We'll hold then, just in case we decide not to go with all those recommendations. Joining us remotely, after a bit of technical fussing, is Amy Shepard with Arcadis Planning Consultant. Amy, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
The floor is yours.
Okay. If I am able to share my screen, I do have some images to speak to, and if that is not possible, I can just speak to the report. Is there a sharing screen? I think there is.
You should be able to share now, yep.
Okay, and are you seeing my screen with a cover page?
Still waiting.
I can see your shared screen if that's any indication of maybe some issues on the township side.
Okay, what, oh, maybe it's video.
Should be
What I'm
okay
looking
now.
to share, does it say staff planning overview that you're
Yes.
seeing?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. That is my cover page. So yes, I just thought I'd prepare a couple slides to wrap our heads around the planning report. Nothing new in this slide deck, but just as a bit of an overview. The subject site is just over 2 hectares in size, and it's located on Beaver Lake. And it's a collection of seasonal residential dwellings that established almost 50 years ago, back in the 1980s. And originally it started off with 19 seasonal trailers, and a resident corporation was established with shareholders. And through that, there was a general understanding of property boundaries amongst the different seasonal trailer owners. Over the next decade, by around 1996, several trailers had been converted to seasonal cottages. And then in 1997, a reference plan was prepared by the corporation to provide a more formal understanding of the site boundaries. The lands and shareholders continue to be managed to the corporation. And today, the lands currently contain 18 residential dwellings, 2 accessory residential dwellings, and then each of those dwellings tend to have individual decks, sheds, gazebos, and driveways associated with it. There's a large communal outdoor amenity area, as well as within that parcel area is Beaver Trace, which is a private lane, and visitor parking. Seeing that many of the seasonal residences were established decades ago, so was some of the servicing, and many of the individual wastewater systems require upgrading. And that's really what has been the impetus for these applications. Pre-consultation was held with the corporation as well as FOTEN, who is the applicant, and their consultants. And it was concluded that the best approach to facilitate these improvements to wastewater management on the site was to create a separate legally separate parcels through a plan of vacant condominium. And the title is a bit confusing in that one would assume the lands are vacant, but it is indeed common and it is permitted that a plan of vacant condominium can happen after the fact, once development has already occurred on a site. So it was decided by legally separating those parcels, then the individuals who did need or want to do the upgrades to their wastewater management treatment systems could do that. And the township also wanted to undertake a zoning bylaw amendment to formally recognize what really exists on the site right now. It's zoned as residential limited services, which allows for one dwelling per parcel. And given that the historic nature of the site, there was development that occurred over the many decades that does not comply with that zoning. So what needs to be done in order to move forward and be confident that no additional unpermitted development occurs and that we have a clear understanding of what exists on the site is that the site be rezoned with a site-specific RLS zoning. So in November 2023, Foten submitted the plan of vacant land condominium and the zoning bylaw amendment applications. Many of you might recall that the statutory public meeting for the applications was held on May 6th in 2024. It was part of a public meeting that had many applications, so I can't specifically say how many people attended specifically for this application, but the meeting in general was attended by 20 or so people. And there were some questions just in terms of the ongoing ownership, taxation, the intention for upgrading of servicing, and yes, that some of the lands are within the floodplain area. But overall, there did not seem to be any concerns or any members of the public that voiced issues. And the corporation had done its own extensive consultation amongst its shareholders and the larger community before the public meeting. So then after that public meeting, the township worked with the applicant and its consultants to make some minor refinements to the applications, and then also to undertake additional wastewater and water analysis, which was then peer reviewed by the township's peer reviewer, Malroz. The proposal, the applications before you today is the plan of vacant land condominium that established 18 units. And they're called units, but essentially the wording is lots. So it's not necessarily speaking of a residential unit, but those are the 18 lots, which currently do contain units. And then about 8,500 square meters of common element area. You'll see in the attachment a number of conditions of draft approval that must be satisfied before the application can be fully approved. And it's really important to note that no new development is being proposed. The only sort of physical changes that are being proposed as part of this is upgrades to the existing wastewater management facilities. The zoning bylaw amendment, based on feedback from the township, the applicant revised its original application of just a site-specific RLS to actually propose to rezone the central portion, that's the common element, to an open space site-specific zone. And then the remainder of the site will be is proposed to be rezoned with 4 site-specific RLS zones that were grouped in similar areas in terms of what we're saying the current conditions, the current provisions with setback, lot coverage, parcel size. So those are the 2 applications before you. As part of this, we certainly reviewed the Planning Act, the provincial planning statement, the county's official plan, your own official plan, the zoning bylaw, had a lot of back and forth conversation with Foten having prepared a detailed planning justification report, as well as many other supporting documents. And based on this and in the intent that it's to the applications are intended to recognize what has existed there for many decades and to facilitate some necessary infrastructure improvements. The township staff, its consultants and peer reviewers were satisfied that the proposed zoning bylaw amendment and plan of vacant land condominium, subject to those conditions of draft approval, which are attached, represent good planning. We think that the applications have regard for matters of provincial interest, are consistent with the PPS, conform to the principles and policy direction of the county and township official plan. And myself, as your planning in-house planner for this particular file, I'm recommending the approval of the zoning bylaw amendment and the plan of vacant land condominium. And that sort of leaves us to your choices tonight as council. They are two separate applications, although the process is quite similar in terms of what your choices are. The first would be to approve the application, either the plan of vacant land condominium or the zoning bylaw amendment as put before you tonight. You could modify the requested plans and zoning or to the satisfaction of council. You could refuse either of the applications and require a resubmission of an alternative proposal. You could refuse the plan or the zoning bylaw amendment, or you don't need to make a decision at this time if you seek to make a deferral for reasons provided by council. I am here to answer any questions, and so are members of the applicant team, as well as the corporation. And most of the matters before you really are technical in nature, dealing with engineering, and we do have representatives here from the applicant's consulting team. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Council, questions, comments, concerns? Councillor Land.
Just one, and it may well have been answered already. Article 7.6.1, it pertains to, development adjacent to water bodies. It's referring to the setback minimum of 30 meters. And it says, quote unquote, the township may require an assessment by a qualified professional that the reduced setback will not result in adverse impact to water body. I didn't see, I wonder how we address that statement, because that is a difference from what we say it should be. So has a qualified professional been assigned to look at this to determine? And who is that qualified professional?
Through you, Mr. Chair, as part of the technical analysis and the consultation, so the Quinte Conservation Authority was engaged in this process starting from the initial consultation in 2003 through to any resubmissions and recirculations. So we do have their blessing on this. And then the technical analysis that was done, it was more in terms of the potential impact of the proposed wastewater system and any future wells. We recognize that there is some lands within the floodplain and no new development is being proposed within that floodplain. So there should be no alteration. And by enacting this site-specific zoning bylaw, it'll further protect to ensure that no new development does take place along that waterfront area.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, Councillor Milligan.
I was just going to make a motion to approve both.
Take that motion. Is there a seconder? Deputy Mayor Davidson. I do have one further question. Oh, you have a question too, Chris Lee? You go ahead then, Councillor Woodcock.
Yeah, sorry. I'm kind of adding on to what Councillor Lalonde was speaking about so our general is 30-meter setback. This is looking at 15 meters, and I understand that's because there's already buildings within that range, so kind of bring it all into code. Is there a possibility that we're lowering the shoreline protection standard across the whole development down to 15 meters? And now I know it's talked about how some of them just based on the containment of the lots, but I wonder if we should fine tune the language so as not to allow a creep toward the lake kind of widely, only because of potential environmental impacts and making sure, in terms of things like wastewater and just, keeping the lake clean and safe. If there is a way to fine tune that language in the bylaw, so I just see we have, I think it's attachment 3 under special setbacks, water bodies and sensitive features. So in the regulation, there's a part where it's like, notwithstanding the foregoing, the 30-meter setback may be reduced to not less than 15 meters. I just wonder if we could add in only where it's been demonstrated that no reasonable alternative exists outside the 30-meter setback, just kind of in terms of like there's no planning on those parcels today, but just thinking down the road. And I think that would be a good fine-tuning in order to ensure that it's applied when necessary, but not maybe unnecessarily. And similar along that same vein, under the condition sections where we have 10 conditions, the idea of the site plan control being a requirement if someone wants to build within, like, closer than that 30-meter range, that should we then trigger site plan control to just take a look at it based on, like, a case-by-case basis? So just if you had any thoughts on that, that was some of my thinking.
For you, Mr. Chair, and certainly I might also call upon the consultant team as well. It's my understanding that this bylaw isn't intended to grandfather per se the provisions. It's here to recognize that they're there, not necessarily that they comply with your current zoning, and that no new development is to occur. We can certainly go back and look at it. I believe that the wording in there right now with the site-specific setbacks and the area-specific zones will preclude any new development from occurring closer to that shoreline. It's really to reflect what exists there today. But certainly we can go back and double check, but I'm pretty confident that what we have here will protect that shoreline, and it is not setting a precedent elsewhere, just given that this is a very special circumstance and no new development is proposed.
Thank you, Amy. Anyone else? I guess my concerns were similar. My understanding from the language is that the development that exists there, certainly within that 30-meter zone, is all the development that's ever going to exist there, that the language in here precludes any permission for additional development. I'm just wondering about the technical reasoning on the potential septic approvals here. We've got 18 dwelling units, and I should have done the math. We've got slightly over 2 hectares. Part of that is open space. I'm wondering, Amy, if you've got a sort of back of the envelope idea of what the average lot size would be here. I don't have a calculator with me.
And I appreciate that the site plan is very small. And again, if the applicant has this readily at their hand.
Yes, she's coming to the table now.
Okay, good.
Yeah, you're off the hook, Amy.
Thank you.
Just press the silver button there and introduce yourself, and if you can answer that question, and any other comments you have would be welcome.
Sure, thank you very much. And, through you, Mr. Mayor. My name is Alicia Ackroyd. Yes, I'm the consulting planner for the applicant team. And thank you, Amy, very much for providing the answers and the overview of the application. I'm happy to provide, I was going to say, not quite a full average here, but I do have some of the information related to the sizes of the lots.
We've
Should
got a
that be
better
helpful?
mic for you.
Sure. Through you, Mr. Oh, yes, that's much better. I can already tell. Great. Through you, yes, there is a 0.8 hectare open space area, and that is really reflecting what's, again, already existing on the site. So it's really now just been delineated. So the remaining sort of 1.2-ish hectares is sort of divided up by those 18 units. And now part of those units also have two separate parts to them. So there's like an area 1 and an area 2. So on average, I would say we're looking at, So through a quick review of the chart, and if anybody happens to have this, this is from the addendum that was submitted in June 2025. There's a chart on pages, I guess, 6 through a few others, and some of the numbers that I would say here in the larger range of areas are 1,500, 1,300 square meters. There are a few others that go as low as 200 square meters, 273 square meters, 500 square meters. So anywhere between the sort of 275 range up to 1.5 square meters. So 0.0015 hectares is the highest range there.
Okay, so some of them are tiny. So when the various technical people were looking at those situations, I'm assuming they considered soil type, soil depth, and all that. Were there any red flags of any kind in terms of groundwater contamination or lake contamination with such a small attenuation space available for septic beds?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. And through, yes, so through these applications, and Amy did touch on this, the impetus for these applications in part was because there needed to be upgrades to the sewage and drinking water infrastructure on the site. So there were and are currently different properties that are sharing infrastructure. So there will be an increase in the number of holding tanks on the site. And the holding tanks is really reflective of those smaller lot sizes. You know, usually you're looking at a bed is often preferred when you have a large property available to you to do that. But what the engineer who has consulted on the file from Groundwork Engineering has come up with is holding tanks that are fitted with alarms and other sort of safe fails should there be any sort of like risk of getting towards overflowing, not even at overflowing, so that these tanks are not only newer and modernized, they're fitted with some sort of those fail safes, and in part it's also because they're located in proximity to the water. So we're looking to replace existing systems that are being shared, which isn't technically permitted once we have these new units developed, right? You want to have one system for one unit or lot, like Amy had said. So there will be a new system for each unit, so 18 total, whether they be a proper septic bed or a holding tank with the safeties. That's what's being looked at. And all of those sizes are related to the size of the property and distances to either new or existing wells. So on the servicing plan, you might notice that there are some new wells being proposed, and they've got these radii around them that show the distance each between all of the septic tanks. So Groundwork has done a very good job of fitting them in perfectly where it's appropriate and safe. And basically through their review, they found that there is no concern at this point given the new technology that's being proposed.
Okay, that's great. If there was mention of holding tanks in here, I missed it. So that certainly allays my concern. That's great. Thank you. Anything else? Councillor Fenwick.
I just want to make sure I'm perfectly clear. So the QRCA is fine with it. We're going to be looking at some significant septic bed or holding tank updates from older systems that are being shared or maybe primitive quality. There's no new development being proposed, and it's going to be an improvement for the lake based on what we currently have. I'm satisfied.
Okay, I had a mover, I believe, Councillor Milligan, and a seconder. Who was the seconder? That's right. Sorry, Doug. Any further discussion? Any further comment? Anything further, Amy?
No, the only other thing that, just for the background information, it is in the report that at the beginning of the process back in 2022, in addition to Quincy Conservation, the Ministry of the Environment and Conservation and Parks was involved, but it was confirmed in writing from MECP in May of 2024 that given the proposals to create separate legal lots with each lot to maintain their own separate sewage works, and they have less than 10,000 liters a day, they don't need MECP approval. So just wanted to add that in there, that it's been a very thorough process involving many different agencies.
And a very long time.
Yes.
Yes, thank you very much. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to the 8.2 tax levy bylaw. You're certainly welcome to stay and listen to our tax levy discussion. Thank you. Good night. Okay, this is our bylaw to establish our tax rates and provide for the collection of taxes for the year 2026 to be enacted and passed by the mayor and clerk who are authorized to sign and seal. Can I get a mover and seconder, please? Councillor Lalande, and come on, you want to collect taxes or not? And Councillor McDonald, any discussion? Did you have any comments, Anita? No? Okay, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. 8.3 is municipal election updates and restricted acts, the so-called lame duck situation. Recommendation is that the report be received and that council enact a bylaw to delegate authority to the CAO during lame duck period. Can I get a motion to put this on the floor, please? Councillor Milligan, Deputy Mayor Davison. Brandy, did you wish to address this?
Nothing further to add to the report. If there's any questions, happy to answer.
Any questions? Yes, Deputy Mayor Davison.
Not a question, but just an understanding. I note here and here, it says lame duck period will be if 2 or more members of council are not running for re-election. John's already mentioned he's not, and I'm declaring tonight that I'm not.
So that duck is waddling now. It will be. August 21st, yes. Okay, any other questions or comments? I did look up, Brandy and I were talking on the phone, I said, where does this lame duck term come from? In the 18th century in London, people who went bankrupt were said to be waddling out of the stock exchange. Did you look that up too? So that got applied to various ineffective situations, and eventually, of course, then it applied to politicians. Can I get a vote? All in favor? That's carried, thank you. 8.4 is a request for support of Yarker Ball Diamond Car Show fundraiser. Recommendation that council receive the report and that council's donation account fund the 3 hours of staff wages and extra services required to satisfy this request. Jake, did you wish to address this any further than your report? And while Jake's getting ready, can I get a mover and seconder to put this on the floor? Councillor Lalande, Councillor Fenwick, thank you. Go ahead, Jake.
Through your worship, I have nothing to add. They were looking for one extra porta potty and some extra picnic tables and an extra garbage can. And happy to support a good organization that was not even in existence not that long ago. So,
Yeah, I didn't realize there was a minor ball group again in Yarker. That's great. Okay, so they're asking for $800. We have a mover and seconder. Any comment? No? All in favor? That's carried. Which brings us to 8.5. This is the last item for consideration. Participation in Township of South Frontenac surface treatment tender. The recommendation is that council authorize participation in the South Frontenac 2026 surface treatment tender pursuant to Section 10 of the Township's purchasing policy, and that the mayor and CAO be authorized to execute any necessary agreements or letters of authorization with Miller Paving to carry out the Township's 2026 road surface treatment program at the negotiated tender unit rates, and that expenditures be funded from the approved 26 capital budget account. Can I get that on the floor, please? Councillor Milligan, Deputy Mayor Davison. Jeff, did you have anything further to comment on your report?
Through your mayor-wise, nothing else to add to the report, but happy to take any questions.
Any questions for Jeff? None, all in favor? That's carried, thank you. Brings us to our consent agenda. Is there any items anyone wishes to pull from the consent agenda? Councillor Lalande.
Item 9.6 and item 9.5.
Okay, anyone else? Councillor Milligan.
I was going to speak to 9.5 too, but we'll wait and see what.
Okay, anyone else? Shall we deal with those first or pass the balance of the consent agenda? What do you prefer? Okay, can I get a mover and seconder to pass the balance of the consent agenda? Councillor Woodcock and Councillor Milligan, all in favor? That's carried, thank you. So Councillor Lalande, go ahead with whichever one of those you wish to address first.
So 9.5 is a corporate activity report. Wow, that's all I've got written on this. Wow.
Mike,
Very, very impressive.
just start over, Wenda, because you didn't have your mic on.
Okay. So it's the corporate activity report, and I just wanted to say, wow. We've never seen anything like this before. I hope it wasn't too labor intensive for everybody. It was so good to read that report and see the activities that you've been doing over the last period of time, and it just blew me away. I mean, I knew how busy you were, but when you see it down on paper like that, and the accomplishments that have been made collectively and individually was very, very impressive. So thank you to the CAO and to staff for taking the time to provide that for us. I appreciate that. Do you
So
want me
do you
to
want a
just go on,
motion
or
then?
let Sherry
Just to
talk?
receive, okay. Okay, yeah, go ahead. Jason wants to make a comment.
Just thank you for the feedback. It is a new process for staff that we're attempting to establish. As mentioned in the report, it may evolve as we get into the groove. The effort is to pull back the curtain a little bit because council typically only gets reports on activities that require a decision, but don't necessarily get the day-to-day activities of each of the departments. So it's an effort in transparency, but I would, the effort is also to try and make it a routine and simple process that staff can contribute to. So we're not trying to make another additional make-work project quarterly. I do want to highlight that one of the last items on there was the delegated authority notice. Anytime that I use the delegated authority, it'll be included in the activity report as part of just normal reporting as requested by council when that authority was delegated. So more to come, and we appreciate the feedback that it's been well received.
Thanks, Jason. So can you just move that we receive that one, Wenda, so we can get it on the record? Okay, is there a second?
Did Sherry want to talk to that too, though?
Did you wish to speak to it, Sherry?
I was just going to say it was fantastic, and I have to admit, with the turnover in staff we've had, it was really interesting to remind ourselves who does what. I just loved it. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. So you're seconding the motion then?
Yes.
Okay, all in favor? That's carried. And you also had 9.6, Wendy?
9.6. So this is the EORN, the Cell Gap Project monthly upgrade. And when I read it, it had the Clearview Road and McGrath Road, and it also listed Aaronsville South and Aaronsville Towers. Originally, when this project was in its infancy, those two in particular garnered quite a bit of public response. The one on Clearview Road and McGrath Road was fairly close to dark skies, and our economic development lead at the county level, Stephen Paul, expressed serious concern about it because he felt that, you know, depending on how the light was shining and different things like that, that it could destroy or diminish the effectiveness of that very important tourist attraction. And we have heard a little bit about the creation or the adjustments that were made to those sites. I would love to hear from Dark Skies to find out if they're happy with the end result. And so I did email the CAO, no, I can't remember who the individual was for EORN, to find out if there had been any negative feedback or any feedback at all on that site. And the other one was the Aaronsville. At that one, it was concerns more about the science of the towers and the health risks. And I think those issues were addressed, but I would still like to know if the people in and around those areas, particularly the individual who was so opposed to it, is okay with it now that it's up and running. And anyway, I just was curious if there was any other way to get feedback on those 2 or 3 sites, aside from just sending an email, which is what I did on Saturday. And I mean, I didn't give them much turnaround time, so I haven't heard anything. But can council or CAO, can you think of any other better way to extract that kind of information regarding this project?
I would suggest that you just get in touch with Stephen Paul. He's got his finger on the pulse of this business, or Brenda Orchard at the county, and they can tell you. I do remember that the dark skies issue was satisfactorily addressed. I can't remember the details now, whether they lowered it or whether they decided it was low enough they didn't need a light. Do you recall, Doug?
I think they lowered it a few feet. It wasn't that much, but,
Yeah.
sorry. I think they lowered it if I remember correctly.
Yeah. It got it out of the required light zone. And as far as the health concern, I have no idea. You could check back with Stephen. My sort of belief is, or suspicion is, that no one will ever be satisfied if they have health concerns with these sort of installations. They're going to cite research, which contradicts Industry Canada, or whatever the agency is now, contradicts their research. And then it's fighting experts, and none of us are qualified to render a technical judgment. It's just one of those unfortunate situations where somebody is convinced that, and who knows if they're right? I don't know. It'll never, no one will ever be satisfied. Any other discussion on this issue? Wendy, do you want to make a motion to receive that item then? Is there a seconder? It's just simply to receive it. Deputy Mayor Davison, all in favor? That's carried, thank you. Okay. That brings us to any notices of motion. Councillor Milligan.
Yes, I have a notice of motion. There's no urgency, so it doesn't need to be direct. To have staff bring back a report to talk about the Premier's new BYOB rules. I know we already have policies and perhaps bylaws that have mentioned alcohol in them. But if we could have a report back to see how it aligns with our policies, and so that we can put out a statement to the public of what this means going forward. I think a lot of people are thinking they can just all of a sudden now, as of April 30th, take their own booze to events, and that's not the case. So just so we can make a clear stand to the public.
Okay, thank you, Sherry. Is that all you need then? Anyone else? Councillor Fenwick.
Yes, I've got a note of motion as well, again, not time sensitive. A little while ago, a couple years ago, we allowed people to drop off brush and clippings and some other things, broken limbs, et cetera, to the dump, our various landfill locations at no charge for a period of time. I actually had an inquiry, and I thought it was a good one, where based on, especially with our dead ash trees and a lot of fire hazard downfall, maybe we should make that permanent for a period of time, but I'd like to know the cost and whether this is something we would want to put a limit on what it is or how it is and how it works, and whether that's a practical idea or not. So that's my notice of motion.
Thanks, Rob. Anyone else? Okay. And no direct motion from anyone. Councillor Lalande.
Yes, so I had planned to put forth a motion regarding communication with the Limestone District School Board, but over the course of the last 3 or 4 days, I've received some additional information. I did contact our trustee, Robin Hutchison, and she confirmed that there is an expectation for an annual meeting between the school board and the municipality, but more in line with staff to staff. And she said rarely does council get involved in those. And then I also found some legislation that supported that. And I've spoken with our CAO regarding this, and I'm just going to pass it over to him because I'm withdrawing my motion. So he's going to give you an update on that discussion.
Thanks, Wendy. We'll consider this the first item under announcements then.
Yeah, it's just to tie a bow on that.
Sure.
Through you, Mayor Wise, there is a community planning and partnership policy number 24 from the Limestone District School Board that does set up an annual meeting that staff have been invited to in the past. In my time here, I haven't received that, and that's because the contact information was not updated, and so I was going to previous contacts. I was able to find those previous invites, and it's thanks to Councilor Lone's request. initiated a bit of the digging, and it's just in time for potentially the next meeting, so it'd be this time of year where that meeting request would be coming out. So I've reached out, ensured that my contact information is the appropriate contact information for any meetings going forward. And should we get that invite, and if there's anything to report, they'll definitely be brought back to council to keep council informed of the comings and goings of the school board and any information that needs to be relayed through that process. So we are reestablishing that process as we speak.
Very good. Thank you, Wenda and Jason. So I arbitrarily included that in announcements. Anyone else have any announcements? Yes, Councillor Woodcock.
Not so much announcement, I just want to comment on the direct motion that we made last week. Apparently it did have to pass, not that it changed the outcome, but that bill was passed. There are no longer freedom of information requests from the public to ministers, their political staff, and let's not forget almost everybody is a minister now, so that's a massive amount of public decisions and made with our tax dollars, for which we'll have no idea how those decisions come about. And it was passed, and it's retroactive back to 1988, so almost 40 years of public decision-making that we will no longer have access to, and it's a foundational part of what it means to have a healthy democracy, and I think this is a major loss of what makes a democracy function, and transparency and accountability, all the things that people keep accusing government of not having, and it's really not great. It's worse than not great, in fact. It's really bad.
Thank you. I wonder if that's going to be challenged in court.
I think it, I think it will, but it's going to cost an awful lot of money of our dollars to then go through another court case and fail, and it's happened several times now with like Bill 124, et cetera. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyone else? Any announcements? Okay. We do have a closed meeting this evening pursuant to Section 239 of the Municipal Act. The reason being, we have to have a meeting to approve minutes, and there's another matter regarding advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for those purposes. So, can I get a motion to move into closed session, please? Councillor Milligan, Councillor McDonald, all in favor? That's carried. We'll take a short break. Okay, we're back from our closed session. Rise and report. What wording do you want for a motion, Brittany? Brandy. No, that was Brittany. Darn.
Thank you, Mayor Wise. Just a motion that council approve the closed session meeting minutes as outlined within the agenda and no further action was taken.
Can I get that from someone, please? Councillor Milligan, Deputy Mayor Davison, all in favor? That's carried. And with that, I need a motion for our confirmation bylaw. What? Councillor Milligan, seconded by Councillor McDonald, all in favor? That's carried. Mover and seconder to adjourn, please. Councillor McDonald, Councillor Woodcock, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Gee, I didn't make one mistake.